this is Julie Bruns. Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. I want you to thrive and be happy, peaceful, and content, no matter where you are on your journey. This podcast shares stories that will show you how it can be done, no matter what your circumstances. You'll be inspired and come away with a new spark of an idea. Never forget, anything is possible. New episodes are released every Wednesday. Subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. This helps others find our content and get happier sooner. To possibility and beyond. Welcome to this episode of the Peace and Possibilities podcast, everyone. Thank you for joining. My guest today is Jenny Heinrich, and I met Jenny about a month ago at an event for marketing influencers. And it was really fun because she was interviewing people on the panel and answering questions from the audience about marketing and basically branding and all of those things related to those topics. And I was in the audience. I was invited by a friend of mine, and I'd never heard of anyone on the panel before. So it was fun to meet new people and hear new names of local Chicago people. But then Jenny, one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you was because of the energy you had at that event and just your inquisitive nature and the way that you were framing the questions to people and answering questions from the audience. And I wanted to learn more about what you did, mostly because, as you know, this podcast centers around helping people figure out what makes them happy and being happy every day at work and doing things they love to do. But in the meantime, if they can't get there, each day enjoying at least what they're doing and getting better at it. And you seem to already be doing that. Yeah, it's good, because that's the feeling I got. And as I wrote your name down and I said, you know what, I need to talk to her and I want to find out more about why she's so happy, because isn't that what we're all craving and striving for? So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for welcoming me.
Oh, you're welcome. So I wanted to start off, my first question is always about how you started in your, how you started in your career journey, whether it was in college, after high school, you knew when you were young what you wanted to do, how you got where you are today. And then did you ever see yourself doing what you're doing, or did you have a different dream and it just kind of, which is what usually happens, it kind of you wound up down a different path. So tell me about what you're doing now.
Sure. So what I'm doing now, I have been working in marketing and communications for 19 years, which sounds so crazy to actually say out loud that I've been doing it for this long, because I still feel like a kid most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I recently, last year in the springtime, I left my important corporate job. I was at Edelman PR. I started their influencer practice in 2015, and I had been leading that influencer practice in the Chicago office, helping scale it across the US and globally. So I've been working with Edelman for about 4 years. Prior to that, I was at another PR firm, MSL Group, where I led their digital practice in Chicago. Prior to that, I was working at Weber Shandwick, and I led the Motorola social and digital business. Prior to that, I was working at a content house managing social and digital strategy for all the General Mills brands. So that gives you an update about what I've been doing for the past 10 or 11 years. But really, what I've been doing my entire career is communications, program activation, really connecting amazing brands out there with their extremely enthusiastic and loyal advocates who love their products, want to try their products, rave about it, tell all their communities about the products of my clients. So that's really what I've been doing for, the majority of my career, really connecting big brands with the consumers that love them.
So you said something about last spring. What changed? You left your corporate job so you work for yourself?
I do. I've been freelancing for, I guess it'll be almost a year. Freelancing at some of, the big PR firms like Weber Shandwick and Ketchum, and working with some smaller companies and brands themselves, really developing their influencer strategy, their digital and social strategy, to really, help them enter into influencer marketing and make sure that everything they're doing within that field is creating impact for their business. So yes, I've been on my own since last April. What changed? Well, it's actually part of the reason that I'm so happy and energetic just in normal life is I had 2 more kids. Kids are, my family is a huge point of happiness and joy for me. I have a 7-year-old and I have 2 2-year-olds now. And I found managing a really, really, really big job totally a piece of cake with my one daughter. But after I had the 2 additional kids who are now 2, I went back to work full time, full steam for about a year after maternity leave. And, I just found that I really wanted to be more available to my family and for myself. And, I've been working in agencies for, 19 years, 50 to 60-hour weeks, travel, long days and evenings sometimes. And I really wanted to, take a step back and say, okay, in my 40s, this is what I want my career to look like. This is what I want my home life to look like. This is what I want my personal life to look like. So I decided to leave and, basically take a career move so that I'd have a bit more flexibility with my time.
So what I'm hearing you, that's awesome. And of course, there's always like something big like that ends up shifting your focus and saying, okay, how do I want to change it so I can have a different work-life balance and have a different experience. So you went which is what I'm doing now too, you went and created what you wanted. You created it for yourself instead of going to find that job, that role, that big opportunity out there, which you've already done. You said, I'm going to create what I want and make it the way I want. And are you happy you did that? What was the scariest part for you? What was the best part? What was the scariest?
Yeah, sure. I think the scariest part was, leaving probably the biggest and best known PR firm on the planet, leaving that position where I really grew something from scratch, something important and meaningful to the organization, to the client, to the team members, my colleagues that I worked with, leaving that practice in the very, very capable hands of my team members who, joined the practice from the ground up, leaving it in their capable hands and really breaking off. Wondering, will anyone want to work with me now that I'm not attached to a giant company? How will I get work? How will I maintain my career now that I'm not, I don't have that direct link to clients like I did every day when I was working in house agencies. Mm-hmm. So it was, and leaving my very, very great healthcare that a lot of these big companies, have and going more, small and more streamlined. That was some of my biggest fears is, how am I going to get work? Have my accomplishments been so tied to the agencies that I've been working for that, it's not a personal accomplishment that I can then take on my own and go outside and leverage that for other work. Those are some of my fears. My greatest, the thing that happened when I did leave is I left in April, so I spent some great summer months with my kids. Just when you have small humans at your home and you're stuck inside all winter, living in the Midwest, when the good weather comes, the smiles and the energy is just, it implodes everywhere. So I got to spend some really great time with my kids this summer. I got to meet a lot of new companies, just by my network. I met some great people at new companies that I worked with, some new clients that I hadn't worked with before or in a while. And it, what I've realized is it gave me a lot of confidence because what I found is that my name, my reputation, the work that I've done over the course of my career, has followed me as an individual rather than just the companies that I worked for. So I can use all my experience and really, use that as a platform to network, to meet new people, new companies, new clients. And everything I've done prior is exactly what a lot of companies are looking for as kind of work for hire. They don't necessarily need a big agency doing their influencer work or helping with their digital or social strategy. A lot of people want really turnkey solutions. So someone like me who, is not billed on retainer can come in on projects and then, disappear when there's not a need, is really, it's extremely efficient for companies out there right now that are looking to make the most of their working dollars and non-working dollars. To have someone that, can be kind of a pinch hitter if you want, who can come in when they're needed and, go away when they don't need them.
And has that expertise for sure.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Would you consider it a success, you leaving that and being on your own now?
I do. I've had a really good time doing it. There's definitely some things I miss about being in the agency world, going into the office, every day or, the majority of the week. I miss that energy that agencies have and, the socialized, the group think sometimes, when you're in a room with people and, your ideas catch on and you start to, come up with these great ideas because you've got all these super smart brains in the room. I miss that. But the beautiful thing is that some of my freelance positions do offer me, the opportunity to go into offices a couple of days a week. So I've learned to balance that, the need for other people and that groupthink and that, agency environment, balancing it with, being at home so that I can do laundry and run errands and cook my family dinner or pick them up from school early or whatever might be needed.
So what do you think besides, so taking that leap and saying, okay, this is what I want with my new family that's multiplying. I want to take this leap and I want to have more freedom and more flexibility and I'm going to do it. And you were scared. And of course, who wouldn't be scared doing it? You did it. And then you talked about some of the things that you did to kind of get things going with networking and meeting new people and clients and all of that. What do you think kept you focused on making sure this was going to work? So, and do you see yourself continuing to do it this way so that you can just keep building your business and having more of this flexibility?
It's a great question. I'm not sure whether, I'll be on my own forever and ever. I still look online and see different opportunities, different companies that are looking, to hire someone with my expertise. And really what it's allowed me is I have a steady stream of work now. I'm diversifying the things that I'm doing. So, when you're in an agency, you're only working with their clients, but I get to work with a whole bunch of different clients by partnering with different agencies in the capacity that I am. So I really adore that right now. But I don't know if it'll continue. If I see an opportunity that's right up my alley with a great organization, and I think that I can make impact there, and they embrace the modern working world. And the way that I define that is, flexible in office or work from home, the understanding that parents or anyone caring for anyone else, whether you're a caregiver for a parent or for your children, life happens. And, sometimes you need to leave the office in a fit if your kid is sick or if you have to go take care of something on your personal life. So I'm really looking for that, for an organization that does have that kind of modern understanding of what it means to be a working mom, at least in my case. But I'm really looking for something interesting, something I maybe haven't done before that would be, interesting to get involved in. I'm one of those forever learners. I love learning new things and, putting myself into situations that aren't necessarily comfortable to see how I fare on the other end. That's really how my career has been fueled from the very, very beginning, right until now, and I'm continuing to do it. I'm always looking for something new and emerging and different and something that hasn't been figured out yet, I want to go in and figure those things out. And that's really how how I built my career over the past 19 years, and how I'm continuously looking for opportunities within the freelance space or with organizations, something different, something challenging, something new, where all my experience and expertise will be complementary, but maybe it's something, a little scary that I don't know, like the back of my hand, like influencer marketing, for instance. Maybe it's something different.
Yeah.
I love branching off and trying new things.
And that's such a great trait to have for success, for happiness in general, just because I'm the same way, which is why I'm doing this podcast. I love learning. I love meeting new people. I love hearing stories and getting people's wisdom. And I'm a big knowledge seeker. And I think that's a common theme of the people I talk with. It's like, if things get stale or things get stagnant and you're just kind of going with the flow, you get bored. You're not feeling so peaceful. You might be content in a way that is kind of like just neutral, and that's good to be some of the time, right? But if you're one of those people that loves to learn, that doesn't sit well for very long, because it doesn't spark anything. It's not feeding your creativity. It's not giving you energy. And you talked about having the flow with other people and that energy from other people. All of those things are so important, and you can create opportunities to get those things by doing some of the things that you were explaining. I love that. Thank you for that.
And here's something, that's really important, is that there needs to be this, have to find the right time and the place, to make a big leap or to try something different. Sometimes the positions that you have, the jobs that you have, that you've been doing for several years, that you're really, really good at, you've created an efficient model, you know exactly how to do whatever the task is at hand. If you're going through something, in your personal life or professional or wherever else in your life, that might not be the best time to leave something very comfortable, something that you're great at, that you know how to do, if you have something else going on in another part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Being comfortable and secure and learned in a position that you have is really, that can be really, really lovely. Mm-hmm. And I would recommend taking a leap once every other part of your life is fairly, stable or neutral, as you called it, because leaving a job and starting something new, there's anxiety, there's stress, there's drive and excitement that happens with it, but you want to be able to focus your attention and your energy wherever it's most needed. So, if you're focusing your energy on your work life, but your home life, there's also something, really significant going on there. You won't be able to do either of them to the full capacity. So I'd recommend, if you are going to be taking a leap or trying something different or going into something new and emerging that you're not as comfortable with, make sure the other parts of your life are fairly stable so that you can really dedicate as much as yourself as humanly possible into your new endeavor.
I love that. It's planning, it's acting, because of course you have to make the leap to actually do it, and you're always going to be taking a risk to some degree, but the more comfortable and the more stable and secure you can make those other aspects of your life in order to do the thing that you're really striving for, that's new and uncomfortable, it's going to make it that much easier knowing those other pieces are in place. So that's great advice. I love that. Thank you.
Absolutely. And, like I said, it's been, a theme of mine throughout my career and throughout my life, really, is to be curious. That's how I put my career together. I studied cultural studies and marketing and communication and consumer behavior in college. But even before college, when I was in high school, I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be in communications. I knew I wanted to be in, advertising, which was, the primary medium of that time in the 90s. I knew I wanted to influence consumers in some way and be a part of this, jungle of marketing and advertising and communications. But what I did to keep the learning aspect and that, kind of the discomfort of something really comfortable that I'm comfortable in, is that I always looked to what was emerging, what was coming up, what was new, what are companies just starting to think about, and really picking up on those emerging trends and then delving into them. In the 2000s, I did a lot of work with experiential marketing, guerrilla marketing. This is before, the era of the pop-up shop and, where everything had an offline component. Back then, online communications was so limited. So companies were just developing websites for their company, for their brand presence. Companies weren't on social yet. Facebook was the only channel at that time, and it was primarily a personal channel rather than business. But as the landscape started to change, I started working with word of mouth marketing. Really, and that was the dawn of influencer marketing, if you really think about it. So I started working with word of mouth. Then I started working on social and digital and what communications looked like there.
Yeah.
And then, paid distribution. There was a time where you didn't have to have a paid budget to get your content seen by millions, but now you do. So really looking at what those new and emerging trends are. Influencer marketing was one of them. I started working with influencers in the mid-2000s when I was doing word of mouth programs and experiential activations where I wanted someone influential to attend and develop content. And that's led me, over a dozen years later to where I am today, where, I've been focusing on influencers pretty heavily for the past, I would say maybe 8 to 10 years now, really that social and digital content that they can create. So my other piece of suggestion is to always look at what's coming up, what's new. And does it have longevity? Do you think that, it's something that's going to stick around and emerge and develop? Because that can always be something really exciting to get in on, which will foster that continuous learning and continue that enthusiasm about what you're doing.
For sure. And then make you also one of those people that is an expert earlier than other people. So if you're on the forefront, like you're saying, and you're looking ahead, you are gaining all that insight that not everyone else who's not doing the same thing is doing. And then it puts you in a better position for other opportunities. I love that. It's awesome.
Yep, absolutely true. It was, when I was in high school, I either wanted to go into advertising or be a hairdresser. Those were my two avenues.
Mm-hmm.
And I love hair still. I love styling hair. But, the one thing that I picked apart from either of those two very amazing career paths was that I love people. I love communicating with people, finding out what their challenges are and fixing it, helping, develop solutions. If someone doesn't love their hair curly, but they want it straight, I can do that. Or just providing that counsel and those solutions and really getting to know people and finding out what makes them tick, or getting to know companies and finding out what their challenges are and putting together programming that really, delivers impact. It's, I love people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love problem solving.
And that's going to make you a really good parent down the line. Like I have older kids in college and high school, approaching college and out of college, but it's going to bode very well for your parenting as they age, that you are one of those people that loves communicating and helping solve problems and helping them solve problems. So that's an awesome parenting trait too. So good for them that they have you.
Awesome.
Not everyone does.
I'll keep that in my arsenal of my parenting tricks.
Yes. So I have one final question for you, Jenny.
Sure.
What do you wish you had learned earlier in your life or career? Is there anything you wish you'd learned earlier?
Yes. Don't be afraid to change your path. In my industry, I have held positions in account service, creative, strategy, copywriting, measurement and analytics, experiential, so actual activation, influencer marketing, social, digital. I've held positions in all of those different areas. And don't be afraid to start in one space. And as you learn more about the industry or the company that you're working at, ask for opportunities to get involved in different areas that might not be where you're supposed to be focusing your time, because finding those new opportunities and asking to learn might change the entire course of your career. Don't be afraid to change paths. If you find something that really gets you excited and motivates you to look at things in a different way or to do your work differently, I love the advertising, PR, communications industry because there's so many different facets and avenues that you can pursue based on what your strength is. If you are a storyteller, you can focus on the content of storytelling and do what I do and focus on the storytellers themselves. Who are you partnering with to tell the story? What does the content look like? Where does it live? But then you can also focus on data and insights and look at what the data coming back from the content is telling me about what story is resonating. How did the storyteller perform? What are these insights telling us about what content will resonate for the audience we're trying to reach? Yeah. So there's two sides of storytelling. There's the data and insights, and then there's the actual content, the production of it. So within the same kind of area, there's two different ways you can look at it. This exists for everything. If you love managing clients and programs and timelines and deliverables and, you can get into client service, but you can also do the exact same thing in another role in an organization as well, where you're a specialist and you have a mind for one specific thing and you do all those different things that I just listed under client service, but you have a specialty. So you're, very focused on one aspect of a deliverable, where client service is focused on the relationship as a whole. Really, there's so many different things you can do. So don't be afraid to try new things. And if you happen to love it, shifting and moving in that direction can often be a great idea. The way that I think about it is in your 20s is your time to date with your career. Try lots of different, things, see what you like best. And when you find it in your 30s, pick it and develop it, so your 30s are the time you get married, you pick the thing that you love, you develop it. But then, in your 40s, your 50s, however long you decide to work, you can always iterate and change purview and change your focus area based on what's emerging if you stay constantly curious.
I love that. I love that theme of constant curiosity. And I also love the asking for opportunities and asking to learn, because I don't think people realize how valuable that is and how often how many people don't do that. I remember at a job I had, this is probably like 10 years ago, I was training a lot and, delivering training to clients and traveling and all of this. And I wanted something else. I wanted another piece of it just to connect what I was doing and just for a little variety. And I wasn't as busy as I wanted to be. And I went to my boss and I said, what other opportunities can I work on? What other projects can I do to supplement what I'm doing now? And he was so impressed with me asking, but he was also like, no one ever asks for more work. No one ever, it's very rare that it could. So obviously being a good employee is one thing and working hard at your current job, but to say, I want more to do, I want to learn more, I want to do more. People don't do that very often. It's more the opposite. People just sit back and how little can I get away with to still get paid? And so it's not common, and you can easily impress people with it, but then it's also, you're being sincere, but they're also very impressed and they're like, wow, they appreciate it. This is a person I can go to if I want to get something done. Not, oh, they're not busy enough, maybe we don't need them anymore. It's the opposite. This is a great employee who wants to better position themselves with other opportunities. Why wouldn't I give it to this person? So that was a big not turning point, but a big something big that happened at one of my jobs, and I just was not realizing how uncommon that was. And when he told me that, I was like, well, cool. I'm going to do that more. I was doing it in a sincere way for the right reasons, and it got me what I wanted. So thank you so much. That was awesome advice, and I was writing down everything you were saying, and I'm definitely going to be incorporating that into some of my notes for this podcast. So I really appreciate all of your insight, and you had some great feedback and ideas. So thank you for sharing.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, Jenny, thanks for listening to this episode of the Peace and Possibilities podcast, you guys. We will talk to you soon. See you next time. Thanks for listening. If you love this content, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you found us on. You can get all my social media links in the description below. Help us keep the momentum going so that every person